Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my top play in college basketball, my Bank Shop best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alright, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday in college hoops. First up, we have Villanova and UConn. This one is going to be 6:30 Eastern. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. I think Villanova is in an unfortunate situation with this one. I think any road team going into this game at UConn is probably going to be in trouble because when you look at UConn, not only are they playing at home with revenge as they lost the first meeting of the regular season, but also, that first loss of the season series was a pretty heartbreaking loss because UConn had a couple of free throws in the final seconds of that game to be able to potentially tie or take the lead in the final moments. They missed both free throws, and Villanova ended up winning by 2 points in regulation. And now you add to the fact that UConn's coming off their worst loss of the season, one of their worst losses since Hurley took over. It was a road game as a 13.5-point favorite against the worst team in the conference by far in Seton Hall, a team ranked outside the top 200 in KenPom, in an ugly, sloppy game from UConn offensively where they turned the ball over 16 times, including a few times where it was very crucial moments in the ball game. I think we see a very fired-up effort from Hurley's bunch in this game when they're playing at home, playing with revenge. I still think that Villanova, excellent offensive team, but the defense does concern me, especially when you're playing on the road, and I think UConn scores a ton of points in this game, gets its revenge, and wins in a blowout fashion. So I'm going to go with UConn in this one and lay the points. Next up, we have Mississippi State hosting Texas A&M. This should be a good one in the SEC. It's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be on the SEC Network. Now, Texas A&M has been fine on the road this season. We've seen them lose a couple of true road games, UCF, Texas, Kentucky, but we've also seen them pick up some nice true road wins and some semi-road wins, including wins over Missouri, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Purdue. So for me, the fate of the Aggies in this game has nothing to do with them being on the road. I think it's going to be a tougher spot for them on the road than it would be at home, of course. But for me, I just think Mississippi State matches up well in this game. I think because of A&M's ranking and current win streak, they're a little bit overvalued in this spot. And I think the price is right with the Bulldogs. I'm going to lay the points with Mississippi State. The one concern you would have with Mississippi State is on the defensive glass, where they've been inconsistent at times this year. A&M, the number one offensive rebounding team in the country. But I still think overall this is a good rebounding team that Mississippi State has, and I think they'll be able to limit the damage there. I don't think A&M is going to be able to make enough tough shots in 40 minutes of this game to keep up and to cover. This is not a great shooting team. They've really relied on getting those second chance looks and getting to the free throw line to score a lot of their points. But Chris Jan's defense in that last game at Ole Miss, I like the Rebels in that game. We took them on the Bank Shot Breakdown. Mississippi State played an excellent basketball game in that one on the road against your rival, a revenge-minded rival, mind you. Mississippi State had no problem in that game, winning by 10 points. So I think Mississippi State's in good form. I think they bounced back from that Florida loss where their defense really folded in the second half. And I like Mississippi State in this game to pick up the win and the cover. Next up, we have South Carolina and LSU. This one is 9 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on the SEC Network. Now, LSU's coming off the win over Oklahoma, the upset victory on the road. That's the second win of SEC play for the Tigers, so they're 2-10, while South Carolina, we know, is 0-12. They took another loss and failed to cover against the Gators in their last matchup. But even though South Carolina has the weaker conference record, I still think that South Carolina's the better team in this game, and I think this is a perfect time to take them as LSU's coming off the upset win. It's a clear letdown spot for LSU. And I think the price is right with South Carolina. I think when you look at both of these teams from a shot quality perspective, I think South Carolina prevails. Fundamentally, we know LSU has really struggled both in the turnover battle and the rebounding battle in conference play and overall this season. I think both teams probably play, quite sloppy in this game, and we'll see, 10-plus turnovers for each team. But I think South Carolina has a very clear advantage in the rebounding battle. I think they'll be able to get to the free throw line more often. And I think South Carolina walks away with its first conference victory of the season. Give me South Carolina in this one on the road. Next up, we have Kansas and BYU. This one's also 9 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN. Now, Kansas is not playing well on the road right now. We've seen them lose their last 3 true road games outright That was to Baylor, Kansas State, and Utah in the most recent game. The Utah loss is not a great one, and they've only had 3 true road wins this year, and none of them were against top 50 KenPom teams. BYU is top 50 in KenPom, ranked 33rd, and BYU is just plainly playing pretty good basketball in their last couple of games. They had that win on the road against West Virginia as a 2-point dog, and then the win and cover against Kansas State, the hottest team in the conference. BYU is laying 8 points. They won by 15. So it's tough to go against BYU. It's also tough to back Kansas on the road right now. I think BYU can certainly compete in this game. They're going to have a great home court advantage. I like BYU in this one at home. Next up, it's Minnesota and UCLA, 10:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1, the final game we're to talk about for Tuesday. Now, it's rare that I'll take a team that has a much better against the spread record than their opponent because oftentimes we just don't get great prices with those teams. UCLA is 15-10-1 against the number this season, facing a Minnesota team that has one of the worst against the spread records in the country, 8-15-2. But because Minnesota has actually played a lot more competitive ball in the second half of the conference schedule than the first, we actually can get a decent price fading Minnesota, especially off the outright win at USC in their most recent game. Minnesota's now won 2 of their last 3 games and their last 2 true road games, but I still think UCLA matches up really well in this one, particularly on the defensive side. I think UCLA, an elite defense this year, I think they have a number of players that can at least minimize, not necessarily get rid of, but minimize the impact that Dawson Garcia has on the floor. We know Dawson Garcia, one of the best players in this conference, really in the country, but he is really a one-man show at some points in Minnesota's season this year. So if UCLA can minimize his impact, keep him to 15 points or less, I don't think Minnesota's going to be able to make enough tough shots, make enough threes to keep up in this game. And that's exactly what UCLA is looking to do, force you to take a lot of three-point jumpers. They only give up 45% of their points from 2-point field goals, and that's been Minnesota's bread and butter with Dawson Garcia. So I think UCLA matches up well. I think they'll force a lot of turnovers. And while Minnesota's had success on the road recently, I still much rather take them when they're playing at home and for that strong home court advantage. So give me UCLA in this one. I'm going to lay the points. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, including that Bank Shop Best Bet, my top play in college basketball, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.